So I've been seeing a lot of people saying that 28 years later sucked, and a lot of people just didn't understand the point of the movie or a lot of things in the movie that they were trying to do. So for the first time in a good while, I feel like I should do a spoiler video and provide some context for anybody who happens to just click on the thumbnail and check out what your boy has to say. This is going to be the recap and spoiler review for the movie. I'm really going to be going through each pivotal moment, talking about the things that are integral to the movie. Spoiler warning is right here. So the movie opens up with the origins of little Jimmy, and we don't get to see little Jimmy for the rest of the movie, but we see his origins and where he comes from, and we get to see him again at the final 2 minutes of the movie. That is very significant, and I will come back to that later on in the video. So then you get to the actual meat of the movie, and you are on Holy Island, and you're introduced to all your main characters that you're going to spend the most time with. I actually feel like nothing in the movie needs to be explained or discussed after about 30 or 40 minutes. It's not until the introduction of the idea of Dr. Kelson, when you see the fire in the distance, is when you start to see different elements that we've never seen in this franchise before pop up and become significant. So outside of the introduction of Lil Jimmy, and then you get the first 30, 40 minutes of the movie where our characters go on their adventure and they're coming back, I think none of that is really significant and worthy of talking about because it's all so straightforward. Let's start going beat by beat. Important things to discuss once they come back from their very first time out and the first alpha gets taken down at the gate. So Spike sees his dad cheating on his mom at his party. And then you get Spike making the dumbest decision that any character made in the movie. And he decides, I'm going to create a diversion and get my mama out of here and get her to the mainland, because that idea of Dr. Kelson has been introduced. And now he has it on his mind that there's a real doctor out there somewhere. And I'm going to get over my issues and get my mom where my mom needs to be. The reason why I call that a dumb decision is because, dog, you just got back from being out there and you barely made it your first time, and you decide, let's do that again. Let's go right back out there. Not smart. And then go back out there without the most capable person in this family, my father. Let me take on all the different elements that's out there. Not smart. Not smart at all. I honestly hate to see characters make poor decisions, but I also have to admit, I talked about it in my other video, we'll never get a movie if we have characters be smart in horror films. Like, they got to make poor decisions. This was a poor decision by him. But again, I do like the adventure that he went on and the lessons that he learned going on that adventure. So I guess we just go with it. Anyways, once the diversion is done and mom is on the mainland with Spike, they are there. Everything else is pretty run of the mill until we get to the part where Spike falls asleep and you see the bloated like zombie crawling on the ground towards him. Very, very tense moment, very gross moment. Made me remember like how disgusting some of this stuff can be on screen. We get to the part where the zombie is about to get him, and then somebody comes up with a blue bag. Later on in the scenes, it's revealed that Isla's maternal instinct kicked in. She jumps up out of her sleep, grabs the zombie, bashes his head in, falls back to sleep, and it's like she blacked out. She don't even remember doing it. I think that's super significant to see that maternal instinct, that motherly, I'm going to protect my child instinct kicked in, because it's going to become a thing that we revisit later on. Please remember it. Now, after Isla wakes up and Spike wakes up and they get back on their trail and their journey, we get to two more scenes that I think need a little justification, a little explanation. So we look at Isla in the field of flowers and she sees the Iron Angel in the distance. And because of her illness, with the cancer and in the brain and all this stuff, it kind of transports her back to being a child and running across that same Iron Angel with her father. They go into this little monologue about, the past, present, and future, and how this thing will be here forever. And like, it was an emotional scene, and I could get how some people did not like the placement of that. I could see how some people might say, hey, what are we doing? This is supposed to be a zombie movie, and we got all this somber emotional stuff. I kind of pushed those thoughts to the side. I think it was a well-placed scene, and it made you feel something for that character, connect to that character. I thought it was good. It didn't feel out of place to me. I liked it. I thought it was a deep scene. To conclude that scene, we get the cameo from Cillian Murphy's character from 28 Days Later. Obviously, he succumbed to the infection and he's been, taken out by Spike. And then they get chased into a gas station, and the gas station has this gas floating. And a lot of people took issue with that. Like, how is that even possible? Well, actually, it wasn't gas. It was benzene. Fun fact here. I actually work around benzene and have been trained extensively on like the effects of it and the way it can harm you. And honestly, if this scene was real, everybody's dead. Like Spike, his mom, all of the infected. As soon as they walk in, it's done, because that concentration is so high at that point that you breathe it in, instantly incapacitated, probably gonna die. So, but it's cool. It's not a real movie. We're not like accounting all the science. But for those people who missed the fact that it wasn't gas, they even mentioned it in the dialogue. It's benzene. It's not gas. It doesn't work exactly the same. At this point, we get the introduction of a brand new character. We get Eric, the soldier. He was significant, not because of his comedic relief that he provides, because it was cool to have a little lighter moment in here, but it was really cool that he introduces the idea of the outside world, and he exposes us to the functionality of the outside society. Like, if you watch 28 Days Later, the very first one, you feel as though the entire world is like this. Then when you watch 28 Weeks Later, it feels like, oh, it's just Britain. The United States is still functioning like normal. Other countries are functioning close to normal. Eric's present here. The most important thing that he did in the movie was confirm, oh, the rest of the world is like carrying on as if nothing is going on. And that is very significant when it comes to the last 2 minutes of the movie that we're gonna get to. And from there, we get to the biggest, or one of the biggest misconceptions or like misrepresented ideas, which is the pregnant infected woman that gave birth on the train. Like, I know that there are other things that happen, but we skipping around to like the big things that are really significant. And that is really significant because I feel as though people don't understand the idea that a person could have been pregnant before being like infected, and then just like carrying the baby to term based off of all the other like nutrients they got from eating animals and eating stuff. That's a thing that could happen. Or maybe some people saw it as, everybody's running around naked and these alphas are the ones that really have some cognitive features up top. Maybe the alpha impregnated an infected woman. Who knows? We don't have a definitive answer. I think it's much easier for them to say she was already pregnant, a survivor who was bitten or got infected some type of way. I think that's a much easier solution, and she just carried the baby to term. The reason why I want to stop and talk about that one, though, is because it ties into Isla's character with the maternal instinct thing. I think that Isla's character snapped out of her sleep, saw her child in danger, killed the zombie, bashing his head into the rocks, went right back to sleep. That maternal instinct took over. Same thing with the pregnant infected woman, how she knew instinctively, I need support here. I'm going to join hands with this woman. I'm going to bear down and get this baby out. And then she passed out. And then after that maternal moment was over, she came right back to being infected and violent and trying to get somebody. And so that made sense to me. I don't feel like that was out of place. I don't feel like it needed an explanation. But I do think that there's a group of people, because I be online, I be reading comment sections. I think there's a subsection of people who saw that scene and thought, this is silly, stupid. It's like, nah, they kind of laid seeds for that throughout the entire franchise. If you think about it, let's talk about it. So what's important to remember about the rage virus in the 28 Days Later franchise is that they are not undead. These people are alive. They're just incredibly violent, driven by animalistic instincts, but they are alive. They breathe and they do everything like normal people do. So the pregnancy, to me, seems like a normal function, especially if that person was pregnant pre-infection. So there we go. We got that established. Next thing, if we look at all the other films, 28 Weeks Later specifically, the character Don, the main guy that we see in the beginning, later on in the film, his wife shows up and she's infected but immune, and she kisses him, and the saliva transfer, he turns. And then he spends the rest of the film chasing after his kids, which is an implication that a part of their memory, a part of who they were, still exists inside that rage monster that they have become. If we look at this movie, the first alpha that we see kind of commands the rest of them. Like, they all are around him. He's standing there looking at Spike and his dad in the distance. And then he gives a command, which means he has a little bit of cognitive activity where he could say, I see you trying to run. I'm sending my people after you. So there's a little bit of, thought that goes into the alphas at the very least. And then at the end of this movie, in this part of the film, we get the Samson alpha, who is aware enough to stop and look at the infected woman and look potentially for the baby she was carrying. So a bit of a bit of cognition is in there, a little bit of mental who he was still present in that person. So if a little bit of that person can still survive after the infection, I think it's safe to assume maternal instincts can survive right along with it. And that pregnancy scene and the birth giving scene is like, hey, it can happen just like this. And then after that moment is over, they revert back to that violent nature. So I was fine with it. I was good with it. If we move past the pregnancy scene and the birth scene, we can get to the Dr. Kelson stuff. And so the Dr. Kelson stuff is so different from everything that we've ever gotten in the franchise up to this point. I can understand how some audience members may have checked out, because I know personally I didn't check out. I enjoyed it because I thought it was really well done. It made me think about things that I did not expect to think about. And I always love it when a movie does more than what the movie intends. In this one, I'm expecting zombie movie, like standard action, scary jump scares. And this section of the movie slows down so much, and you get so much deep thought that goes with the Dr. Kelson character and all his stuff on screen. It's like, I appreciate this quite a bit. But if somebody else says, man, I hated that part, it's like, oh yeah, your expectations were quite different and you didn't like what you got and you expected something different. I really appreciate the gravity of those scenes and what they brought to the movie. And when I look at it, I just think this is a man who is doing everything he can in his power in solitude to honor the lives of people he didn't even know, and talking about how life has value and bringing or showing some level of value to a life that he never even interacted with. I think it's sweet. It's special. It's deep. And so I was good with it, but I can see how people didn't like it. So moving on from Dr. Kelson, we go to the ending part of the movie, like the last 10 minutes. And you have Spike deciding to go out on his own and not go back to his village. Again, crazy decision, but he decides to do that. He's out on his own, and we get to the last 2 minutes of the movie, because in the last, let's say 5 minutes, you have the letter being read and interactions with the dad, and you see Spike cooking some fish, and some infected come along. He stands his ground. He does his thing. Really cool stuff. Then he sees more coming, and he kind of runs and puts his back against the wall, and he defends himself. Great stuff. Then you get the reappearance of the Jimmy character. And this is super significant. We can talk about Jimmy and the introduction of him or reintroduction of him. We could talk about that for a little while. So let's get deep. So sticking strictly to the movie, not real life stuff, because real life stuff is crazy. But sticking to the movie, I think Jimmy represents the opposite of Spike. So Spike grew up in a community. He had a strict dad and a family around him and some structure. Jimmy, we saw in the beginning, his dad got eaten up, and he's been on his own, I guess, up until this point. And so you see what it's like for a person who grew up relatively sheltered and trained versus a person who all they really know is this world. The tone of the Jimmy scenes with the clean tracksuit crew, like these tracksuit ninjas show up. And I think when you look at it, the tone is so different, because I think that they are setting things up to do more in the world of 28 days, 28 years later. Like they can do a lot more. And it may be focused on that Jimmy character and his adventures that brought him to that point. And I would really be interested, because there's a lot of things, just looking at that really quick scene, there's a lot of things that I want to know about Jimmy from that small interaction. Let's look at him. First, everybody's clothes are really clean. Like that means something to me. So if you think back to when we talked about Eric, and I said Eric's character establishes the operations of the outside world, but yet Jimmy and his crew live on the mainland and they have clean clothing and they look relatively healthy. It makes me think, hey, maybe they can do something to where they show Jimmy like building up this little team that he has, and they have this black market connection to the rest of the world where they can get supplies and they can get clothes and they can get food, and somebody's breaking the rules to supply something to Jimmy for some reason. Like that's interesting to me. Again, some people might have not liked the slowed down portions of this movie, but like if you get a property following these guys with, you know, the tracksuit ninjas, just based on the 2 minutes we got, I imagine it's going to be quite a bit more action packed and quite a bit more like akin to what we got in the older film. Shaky cam, chaotic moments, hand to hand combat, very violent. I think that's what we would see if we saw Property starring this Jimmy character in the Tracksuit Ninja crew. Now that's the movie. Let's talk about the real life part. The real life part was very weird to me. I'm gonna read off the iPad here. I was looking online and I seen that there was a guy by the name of Jimmy Savile, maybe. I think that's how you pronounce his name. He was an English pop culture figure. I saw people in different comment sections on Instagram, on Twitter, just talking about Jimmy here in this film represents Jimmy Savile in real life. And the Jimmy Savile in real life was, again, like a DJ pop culture character. I think he might have had a TV show or appeared on TV in England. And the thing about him is that when he died, it came out that he was a child predator. Like he went after the kids in a sexual way. And so I think that actually kind of makes sense, because I would imagine the Tracksuit Ninja crew is younger than Jimmy. So maybe the Jimmy in the movie represents the Jimmy Savile in real life, who got two young people and then kind of like brainwashed them, controlled them to say, hey, you listen to me and I tell you what to do. Because they listened. He told them hold until a certain point, and then he told them, let's get to it. And they cleaned up. Really, really impressive fighting action. It just was so tonally off compared to everything that we had just saw. And another reason why the Jimmy Savile in real life representation angle makes a lot of sense to me is because Spike is 12, you know, at the time of all this stuff happening. And like he gives Spike a look as if like, I got plans for you. Now, maybe it's not the child predator angle. Hopefully they don't put that on screen, but the idea of manipulating and controlling the youth for your own personal gain. It's like, maybe. I did notice, if you notice, it was one of the things that really threw me off. Like he's wearing a tiara, like a little girl's crown. Like I'm the king of whatever I'm doing. And so maybe that's a connection that only people that live in England caught. But just poking through comment sections, I was able to pick that up. And I think that's dope if they go that route. But those are my thoughts on 28 years later, doing the spoilers, talking about everything. I thought it was a good movie, top tier cinema. It presents itself as more than just a basic movie. It has way more ideas than a basic movie would have. It's not a run-of-the-mill zombie film. It has higher themes, and I liked it. Not a ride I want to go on again, because I didn't want to think them thoughts when I was thinking them thoughts. But I did like the fact that, hey, you saw the opportunity to capitalize on the IP, and you gave me real deep ideas and thoughts. I appreciate it. Thought it was good. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section if you choose to do so. Thank you so much if you've watched thus far. Deeply appreciate every view, every like, every comment, every share. That's all I got for this one, y'all. Enjoy yourself, guard your heart, and go watch something good.